Let me grab you right now because what I'm about to tell you is not normal news. This is a global alarm bell. A former Pentagon official just broke ranks and said something so explosive, so unapologetically direct, that it sent shockwaves through Washington, Islamabad, and New Delhi all at once. And you need to hear it now, because moments like this change the direction of countries, alliances, and futures. Ask yourself, when was the last time a high-level insider publicly attacked a foreign military chief and then demanded the United States apologize to another nation? Exactly. Never. That's how big this is. It reveals pressure, fractures, and power struggles that have been kept in the dark for years. Stay with me. Because over the next few minutes, you're going to understand who's rising, who's losing control, and why this moment affects your security, your economy, and the world your family will grow up in. And it all erupts right here, starting with this shockwave. Ex-Pentagon insider detonates us Fay Pakistan tensions. With direct attack on Munir, Fay ex-Pentagon insider detonates us Fay Pakistan tensions with direct attack on Munir. And a shock statement urges America to apologize to India, sparking global diplomatic uproar. Fay the moment it hit the airwaves. And I need you to understand this. This wasn't a slip. This wasn't an off-the-record leak. And this definitely wasn't one of those vague former official sound bites carefully massaged by a communications team. This was a direct hit, a controlled explosion, a deliberate move from someone who knows exactly how Washington reacts, how Islamabad recalculates, and how New Delhi interprets power signals. So when he chose to go public, unfiltered, and aim straight at Pakistan's General Asim Munir while simultaneously telling the United States to apologize to India. Yes, apologize. You can bet this wasn't accidental. This was strategic shock therapy, and the world heard it like thunder. Because here's what almost nobody is saying out loud. A former Pentagon insider doesn't do this unless the internal pressure is already boiling. He doesn't aim at Pakistan's top military commander unless Washington has reached a point of deep frustration. And he doesn't drop the A word. Apologize. Unless there's a major recalibration happening beneath the surface. The moment he said it, every diplomat, every analyst, and every intelligence desk, from Rawalpindi to New Delhi to DC, sat up straight, because this wasn't commentary. This was a geopolitical message wrapped as a warning. Let's break down what this really means, because the speed of global reaction is telling you something massive is shifting. The attack on Munir was not just harsh, it was personal. He called out Pakistan's military leadership for playing strategic games, for leveraging ambiguity, for manipulating alliances, for promising cooperation while fueling instability. And when someone from the Pentagon uses that language publicly, it's a signal. Washington's patience is exhausted. For decades, the U.S. tolerated Pakistan's dual strategies, public partnership, and covert maneuvering, because it needed Islamabad for Afghanistan, counterterrorism, routes, and regional intelligence networks. But guess what? Those needs are gone. The geopolitical math is changing, and suddenly an insider is saying what us officials only whispered behind closed doors. Pakistan's leverage is fading. Now combine that with the second bombshell: the U.S. owes India an apology. That is not a small statement. That is a tectonic statement. That is someone telling Washington, you misjudged. You underestimated, and now India expects and deserves a correction. And for anyone who thinks an apology is symbolic or harmless, let me make this brutally clear. Apologies in geopolitics are never soft. They are power recalibrations. They are strategic acknowledgments of misalignment. They are admissions of dependency. If the U.S. apologizes, it means something fundamental has shifted. It means India's importance has reached a point where America can no longer afford mixed signals, backroom hedging, or legacy loyalties that don't fit the future map. Because India isn't just a regional player anymore. It is a central pillar of American strategy against China. It is a market, a tech hub, a military ally, in the making, and the world's most decisive demographic engine. Washington knows this. And the Pentagon official was essentially saying, stop pretending Pakistan and India sit on the same strategic shelf. They don't. Not anymore. This is the part most people miss. His criticism of Munir was directly tied to the call for an apology. The first shot was meant to weaken Pakistan's diplomatic footing. The second shot was meant to elevate India's. And that's where the crisis energy comes in. Because this isn't just a diplomatic spat. This is a restructuring of the U.S. face-South Asia balance playing out in real time. The official didn't target Munir randomly. He targeted the symbol of Pakistan's military dominance. And when he told America to apologize to India, he wasn't appealing to emotion. He was appealing to strategic clarity. He was demanding the U.S. choose consistency over convenience, and he knew exactly what kind of global turbulence that would unleash. Within hours, Pakistan's political circles were in damage. Control panic. India's media exploded with triumph and validation. Washington scrambled to issue neutral statements that fooled absolutely no one, and Beijing watched with quiet satisfaction. Because any fracture in U.S.-Pakistan relations or U.S.-India miscommunication feeds China's long-term ambitions. But here's the important part. The Pentagon insider didn't care about the chaos. He expected it. He wanted it, because chaos is the fastest way to force a recalibration that bureaucracies are too slow to make voluntarily. Let's talk about why he went after Munir specifically. Asim Munir has positioned himself as the firm, uncompromising guardian of Pakistan's national interests, projecting strength internally and externally. But Washington sees something different. A military establishment that demands partnership without providing stability, that critiques US policies while relying on U.S. leverage, that claims sovereignty while expecting aid. And yes, America has its own contradictions, its own hypocrisies, its own strategic blind spots. But from the Pentagon perspective, Munir represents a continuity of old patterns. The U.S. is ready to break. So the public criticism wasn't just about Munir's leadership. It was about the system he represents. And this is exactly why the call for an apology to India hit with such force. It reframed the debate. It shifted the center of gravity. It declared that India is no longer the side quest in South Asia. It is the main storyline. The former official essentially told Washington, you treated India like an optional ally for too long. You treated Pakistan like a necessary evil for too long, and now the entire structure needs to flip. That is the message hidden inside the shock. You can feel the urgency in how fast governments are reacting. Pakistan is trying to spin this as an isolated, rogue statement. It's not. India is using it as evidence that Washington is finally waking up. They're not wrong. The U.S. is pretending it's neutral. It's not. Everyone is scrambling because the truth is too big to ignore. The U.S. cannot maintain its global strategy without India, and it cannot continue its old habits with Pakistan. That's why this statement exploded. That's why it triggered a diplomatic storm. And that's why this news moment matters. It revealed the real hierarchy of American priorities. And the world saw it instantly. Munir called out for strategic games as Washington signals a major shift. And Trump is publicly challenged the U.S. must pick India or Pakistan. No more double play. Asterisk. This is the pressure point no one in D.C. wanted exposed. And it just blew open. The critique of Munir wasn't vague. It was a direct accusation that Pakistan's military leadership has been manipulating alliances while demanding unconditional U.S. support. And then the spotlight snapped to Trump with a blunt warning that his mixed messaging is now a liability. The message is unmistakable. The era of balancing both sides is over. Washington is being pushed to commit, to stop the diplomatic juggling act, and to acknowledge India as the primary strategic partner. This is the clearest sign yet that South Asia's geopolitical balance is tilting. And the U.S. can't pretend otherwise. India emerges as the power pivot, forcing Washington to rethink alliances. And Pentagon circles hint at collapsing patience with Pakistan's military leadership. Asterisk. This is the moment global strategy snaps into focus. India isn't just rising, it's becoming unavoidable, the anchor state the U.S. needs for tech defense and China containment. And as India's leverage grows, insiders are openly signaling that Washington is done tolerating Pakistan's old patterns of delay, denial, and double-ended diplomacy. The shift is unmistakable. America is recalibrating, and Pakistan is running out of strategic runway. New warnings suggest Pakistan losing leverage in U.S. global strategy, and India's rising power triggers calls for a historic U.S. course correction. Analysts say this is no longer speculation, it is acceleration. Pakistan's influence, once protected by geography and military utility, is eroding fast as Washington shifts focus toward long-term, high-value partnerships. At the same time, India's expanding military, economic, and technological weight is pushing us. Is being urged to lock in its future with India, diplomatic shockwave. Former official exposes fractures in U.S. foreign policy, and global analysts are alarmed as the U.S. South Asia balance undergoes sudden, sharp recalibration. Asterisk, the explosive statement didn't just ignite controversy. It revealed the internal contradictions shaping Washington's strategy. By publicly challenging the U.S. approach to Pakistan and India, the insider forced into daylight the policy rifts usually buried in classified briefings. Now analysts warn the shift is happening faster than expected, with long-standing alliances destabilizing as the U.S. rushes to anchor itself to India's rising power. What you just heard isn't speculation or political theater. It's a real-time shift in global power. A former Pentagon official didn't just call out Munir. He exposed the cracks in US foreign strategy and forced America to confront a truth it has avoided for decades. The balance of power in South Asia is changing fast, and the world is being pushed into a new era, whether it's ready or not. This matters because these decisions shape the stability of entire regions, the strength of economies, and the security of ordinary people like you who feel the consequences long before governments admit what's happening. You now know what most people will only realize months from now, and that awareness is your advantage. Stay sharp, pay attention, be the person who sees the storm before it hits. This is USA World Reports, bringing you the realities that shape tomorrow while others are still reacting to yesterday. Thank you for watching. If you're someone who refuses to be caught off guard by global shifts, then hit like, subscribe, and share this with one person who needs to wake up to what's happening. Join this movement of people who stay informed, stay alert, and stay ahead. Big stories are breaking, and you're not going to want to miss what comes next.